We're talking about 7 deadly sins. Has anyone ever heard of the 7 deadly sins?
Yeah, that movie with Brad Pitt in the 90s. All those, the gluttonies.
Yes.
Did you watch any of those movies?
Yes. Okay.
He was fun back then.
That is actually one of the 7 deadly sins, gluttony. So there is wrath, which is anger, and Dawn's not here, but she was here the other week, and she said that if we give a soft answer, we turn away wrath. So we turn away wrath, which is anger that comes back at us like revenge. Right? So one of them is wrath, another one is greed, another one is pride, another one is lust, another one is sloth, and
What's that one?
envy.
What's sloth?
Sloth, laziness, a lot of people say it's laziness.
Sloth?
S-L-O-T-H.
Sloth?
Sloth.
How do you spell it?
Yeah,
S-L-O-T-H.
yeah. So we have greed, wrath, pride, sloth, envy, lust, and gluttony. So sloth, a lot of people actually consider it laziness, but what it is what I'm going to get into sloth and everything. But the 7 deadly sins. So you guys remember we did the 7 gifts of the Spirit, right? And those are ways in which we can increase our character to become better people. So I have a lot of people like, well, Cerise, I do the 7 gifts. I am kind, I am gentle, I am patient, I am, I have a lot of self-control. And they say that to me all the time, but then they don't realize that there is the other end of the spectrum, which is the 7 deadly sins. So they might be kind, but how slothful are they?
Or lustful.
Right? Or lustful, exactly. There's so many other things that hold us back from being successful in life. We can do all the positive things till the cows come home, but if we're doing anything to do with the 7 deadly sins, and we're not focusing on getting those out of our character, then obviously we're holding ourselves back from being in alignment with God. Okay? So what I did was I just wrote down an example of each one very quickly. I'm just going to go through them and just kind of let you know how wrath can be in our everyday life without us even noticing it. The other day, I experienced wrath with somebody who I'm close with. Something happened on Facebook, and it was something that normally I could sit back and just meditate on and just be like, oh, that's nothing, it upset me, yeah, but I'm going to have some patience and self-control and not confront them on it and stuff like this, right? And I can usually let something slide. I believe that it's important when we experience things that upset us to let most things slide. Well, this thing I couldn't let slide. Okay, so I confronted the person on it. When I called them up, I said to them, this is what's bothering me. And immediately they came back with, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But I wasn't necessarily looking for an apology. Like a quick apology like that. I think what I was looking for was a conversation so we can gain some kind of understanding. So you won't have to be sorry again, right? Because it's not about being sorrowful. It's understanding what actually did happen, right? So I said to the person, okay, well, I understand you're sorry, right? But I need you to get the gist of why I'm upset, because you know me. I'm not just gonna call you out of the blue and want to speak to you about something unless it's something really important, right? So let's just talk about this, right? And the person was like, okay. And I was like, okay. And then I got interrupted by a client on a phone call, so I had to go, right? And so that was it. The person sent me a text message, and I sent them one back, saying, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and we came to kind of like an understanding, right? However, something else came up in the midst of it by the next morning, which proved to me that there was no understanding, right? And I'm like, okay, so now I tried to handle this situation in a way that was good for everyone involved. However, the situation wasn't handled, so now I have to handle it again. So I'm like praying to God, what do I do? So I called the person back and I said, look, I just really want to address this again. Right? And now I'm feeling like I'm being petty at this point, right? But I still had to handle the situation. Well, the person came back with wrath, right? And they were like, look, you already told me about this yesterday, and now you're calling me up and telling me about this again today? Now, this is a person that's close to me, that is very close to me. I'm not going to say who it is, right? But I was shocked. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I respect this person usually in conversations. This person respects me. I know this person has the ability to do this, but they usually do it with other people, right? They've never done it with me before, but now I felt it, their wrath come out. So at this point, I thought, you know what? Am I going to participate in their wrath and their resentfulness, or am I going to hold my tongue, tame the tongue, like what I taught in a few other classes, and have some self-control? Or am I going to participate in the arguing? Because I'll be honest with you, at that moment, I was ready to holler back and be like, excuse me. No. But at the same time, if I did, I would have exalted myself. If I said, who do you think you're yelling at? Well, who are they yelling at? Who am I, right? Like, so let them yell. So I let them yell for a moment. And then they said, you're damaging my character and all this. And I was like, okay, let them go. Then I said to them, I don't mean anything to say against you. What I'm saying to you, and I explained to them again, and we got off the phone what I thought was amicable. After we got off the phone, this person sent text message after text message after text message, and sending rude text messages, trying to correct me, right? So I'm like, okay, they still didn't get my point, so what's the sense of me trying to come back at them now? Now it's when you argue with a fool, you become a fool. Right? I'm not calling them a fool because they're not a fool, but I'm just saying that's what this foolish situation started to unfold. And I was like, all right, I can see where perhaps, hi, come on in guys. I can see perhaps where they were thinking at that point that, was there someone else out there?
She's just
charging her phone.
Okay. And I can think at this point, this person is starting to think I'm petty and everything, which is fine, right? So, that was it. I did not respond. But what I did was, I got a phone call from a client who was experiencing the same situation, and then another client, and then a friend, and I said, okay, there's something that God is trying to tell me here that I have to put out there to people. So I use my coach tips on Facebook a lot to give people advice, and on my website and everything, based upon things that my clients are experiencing. I'll write a little blurb. So I put it up on Facebook. Nothing too obvious about this person. I just said, when you were trying to correct someone and they come back at you, blah, 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 and everything, right? So now the person reads my Facebook status.
Oh no.
And they leave me a big text message saying laughing my butt off, but they put the A, right? Laughing my butt off. Now, of course, they're not laughing. They just put that, and they put it in capital letters to show me that they're laughing so hard, right? And I know that status was about me, and blah, blah, blah. But I guess in hindsight, the status was about a few things. Not only them, but I can see where they thought it was about them. So at that point, I was at the movie theater, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to respond to this after the movie, because this is becoming ridiculous now. So I said, I don't like getting myself caught up in that stuff, right? And so I said, after the movie, I texted them and I said, you know what? I don't have the time nor the heart to continue this arguing back and forth. You have a good day, and I love you. And that was it. I haven't heard back from the person, and they're part of my family, so obviously I will hear back from them obviously again sometime, right? But what I'm saying is, that it turned to wrath. It turned to anger. It turned to a situation where now I'm looking back on it, and am I feeling sorry for contacting this person and telling them how I feel? No. Because in the Bible it says if you have a problem with someone and you feel that you need to talk to them about it, then you go to them. And then if the problem is not resolved, you go to them again. And then if the problem is not resolved, you get someone else to come with you. And you go to them again. Right, and you speak to them until the problem is resolved, if the problem is really that bad. But the problem didn't get so bad where I needed help, right? But I did feel like the issue was bad enough for me to have to speak about it. Wrath came, and then how I handled it was like that. So now I look back on this person, and I'm like, wow, really shocked that they came out like that. So that's just a lesson in my daily life, because I don't experience wrath a lot from people at all, right? And when I see someone is angry or whatever, I just keep it moving. Right? But in this situation I experienced and I was shocked, but really at the end of the day it makes me more resilient, and it shows me what their natural person is when they're in the midst of anger, right? And now the other one, so that was wrath. Greed. In the Wikipedia, it says greed is the inordinate desire to possess wealth, goods, or objects of abstract value with the intention to keep it for oneself far beyond the dictates of basic survival and comfort. Okay, so what does that say? Like, you have something, like, all of us like to have wealth, right? So obviously wealth means having more than what we need, right? But, and that's okay, having more than what you need is fine, because that makes us feel secure and stable, right? What is not cool, and when it becomes greed, is when we don't want to share it with others, right? When we don't want to invest in others, help others. And that's where we looked at the gifts of the Spirit a few weeks ago when we were talking about even Anthony being a giver. Hold on one second, guys, sorry. Hi, I'm just in class right now.
I think I'm gonna
Yes, you
take
do.
this sweater.
You're welcome, bye-bye. Bye. So, sorry guys. So, greed can be small, greed can be big, but it still dictates a very important part of our nature. No matter what it is, if we have a lot of it, we should give. Even if we have, like, gum today, right? I gave out gum. If you have 10 sticks of gum, at least give away one. What I like to try to do, when I have a lot of something, I like to try to give it away, right? The other day, I have a lot of clothing, right? And like a lot of clothing to the point where some outfits I've never worn more than once. I have some outfits in the closet that still have tags on them, right? And for me, I'm like, that's greed. And sometimes I have to apologize to God because I'm like, oh God, I didn't even wear that outfit yet and I'm still buying other clothes. That's sickness. It becomes a sickness, right? And then it's like, is that greed? Or what is that, right? But at the same time, I give away a lot of clothes.
I wish it was your size.
So my daughter came over the other day, Thursday, and I went through my closet and she went home with 3 garbage bags full of clothing. And then I turned around and I said to myself, you know what? Because she said to me, she left me a text message. She's like, Mom, oh my gosh, you should be a stylist. I love all the stuff you gave me. And she was happy. So my desire to shop and have more clothes than what I need became something that I could give to someone else, right? So it wasn't really greed at the end of the day because I'm willing to share it. I gave away a lot of nice things too. Like none of it was stuff that I would just be like, oh, this has a hole in it. You can mend it here. Go ahead and darn it, right? Like I wasn't doing that. I'm like, that's a really nice outfit, Alicia, and I would wear that with a big chunky white necklace, and you know. So that's where it becomes where you know you're not being greedy with it, right? Now, the other day I went to my friend's house. He picks me up and he's like, my mom invited us for coffee. All right, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, let's go have a coffee. So he stops at the grocery store first and he's like, you know, I'm just gonna grab some cream just in case she doesn't have cream. So he gets back in the car and he looks at me and he's like, look, cream's on sale. And he had a big carton and a small carton, right? And I was like, wow, all right, okay, good stuff. We get in the car and so we're leaving the car and he takes the small carton to bring into the house. Fine, everything's cool. We get in the house. The mother comes, the coffee and the tea is on the table, she's ready for us, right? And then she goes into the fridge to get the cream. She brings the cream over and she shakes the bottle, and the carton, and she says, well, there's not much cream in it, but what I'll do is I'll just take a drop and I'll let you guys put as much cream as you want in yours so the cream can go around. We'll ration it. Now, this is the part I left out. On the way to her going to the fridge to get the cream, he didn't know she was going to the fridge to get the cream. He went in his duffel bag to grab the small carton of milk. And I'm thinking in my heart, oh, she's gonna... Look, this is how it is. I got the cream on sale. There was cream at the house. She can go get some cream tomorrow morning. And I said, but you got 2 cartons of cream. You have more than enough. We're out and about. You could, right now we can go to the grocery store and get it. She doesn't have a vehicle. She can't get out easily, right? You have a vehicle. You know where the store is that's selling it on sale. We can go right back there. It's just down the street. Give her that small carton of milk. And he said, mind your business.
Oh my God.
That's what he said. Mind your business. And so I minded my business, right? Because I wasn't going to turn this into wrath, right? But in my head, the first thing that came to me was greed. That is greed. What else would that be? You have more than enough milk, right? What else would that be? Mental illness, right? If we want to take it that severe, it's gotta be something or some kind of family anger, or resentment, or that's something deep-seated. But at the end of the day, it's greed, because he had more than enough to go around, and that's exactly what he did. And he didn't even say to me anything, like, oh, you got a point, nothing. He just said, oh, she'll get some tomorrow morning. And the woman, like, again, doesn't have a car or anything of that nature to go out easily like him. So, you know, the definition of greed in the Bible is having the pursuit of something more than you need and not sharing it. So it's greed is not like trying to get more and more and more. That's actually okay, right? But it's what you do with it when you got it. That is the difference between greed, right? Because some people are like, oh, you're so greedy. Don't you already have more than enough money? Why you gotta invest this and invest that and everything? They're not greedy. They just want to be secure, right? Yeah. What makes them greedy is by not giving. So, another deadly sin, sloth. So, sloth in Wikipedia is defined as spiritual or emotional apathy, neglecting. Now, this is what I didn't know, guys, until I looked it up. I always considered it just laziness. But it also represents neglecting what God has spoken and being physically and emotionally inactive. I know a woman, you know, doing the commercials and stuff like that and everything, and being in the media and everything for so many years now, and being on set. I've noticed, I know a girl who does hair, okay? And she does hair for a show, which I'm not going to mention because this is all confidential, but these people hired her to do hair on set. Now, the character that she does the hair for, she braids the hair, right? The character she does the hair for is not on set every day, okay? And it's a guy, right, that gets his hair done. It's an American show. I wish I could say the name, but anyway, he's not on set every day, so she doesn't have to be on set every day. She lives in Canada. When he is on set, they fly her to the States to do his hair. It's in her contract. And she has to stay on set from 6 o'clock in the morning until, if it is, 12 o'clock at night, or 6 o'clock the next morning, like whenever they're taping, right? But she has to be on set at his beck and call. If there's one braid out of place, one braid not shiny enough, or, you know, maybe it's coming out or whatever, she has to be there at the beck and call. And I know because the last time I was on set to do the infomercial, they would stop rolling and they would say, makeup, come do hair, she's too shiny. Or they would say, hair, come on, her one curl is out of place, right? This one girl, she had one little wave out of place, and it was like just kind of folded, and they came and they took her curl and her wave and they fixed it like that and they put it back in place. Because the last shot, her hair was like this, and now it was like this. Okay, just something tiny like that, they will stop rolling. So you need to be at the beck and call. Well, this girl here, she was slothful. She's blessed with this contract where she can be flown all the way to the States, and she doesn't have to be on set all the time. She's getting paid more money than most people with a full-time job, okay? And what does she do? Sleeps in. Sometimes she misses her flight, which is the day before she has to be on set. They don't just fly her in the same day that she has to be on set. Right? So she'll sleep in because they book her flight for her and they tell her you have to be at the airport for this time. Sometimes she's not on time. So, and even when she does arrive in the States and she has to be out of the hotel, they book her a hotel for her as well, and they make sure she sleeps well, right? And free food and everything. Okay, so she has to be on set 6 o'clock in the morning. She walks in there at 7:30 with her hood on, and she's all tired, and she walks in like she's the diva, the queen of the show, right? And then they'll say, you're late. She'll say, I know, but the character's not on anyway right now, right? And he'll be sitting there still in makeup and everything. It takes hours to do his makeup, right? But still, she doesn't know when she's going to be needed, right? That's slothfulness. It's being inactive. God has blessed her with a job that most people who are in hair or even in makeup or whatever would dream about. Some of them go to school just to have that type of job. And here she has it, and she didn't go to school, she just did braids all her life growing up. And she's very good at it, and so she got recognized on sets here, and so she actually was hired by the character himself, who would come here every now and again for certain events, and he liked the way she did hair, and so he got her hired on. And so this is what she does. Like, you know what I'm saying? Wasn't Usher's wife, Tanisha, his hair person before they got married?
Stylist.
Oh, a stylist. And so envy is not just for people who are, you know, have nothing and they envy someone else having everything. It's not even that. Envy is a state of mind. And it's because I know some people that have absolutely nothing at all and they're the most happiest people and they want other people to be happy. They may not even have a vehicle to drive around in themselves or even enough money to buy food in their fridge to pack up their cupboards or anything, but yet they just want other people to be happy. So it doesn't mean that somebody has nothing when they're envious, right? And I know that there's some rich people, very wealthy people out there who want to be the wealthiest, and someone else is wealthier and they're just jealous, right? So there's envy is a state of mind. Lust. So she started to see a married man. So she thought this married man was going to leave her, leave his wife for her. So, you know, they were really getting on good. And it really did seem to her that this was the man of her dreams and that this was going to be her soulmate and everything. And so he really did start caring for her, right? And she became his mistress. She turned around and she started to say to him, when are you going to leave your wife? When are you going to leave your wife? And then so he said to her, well, just give it some time. He started to give her that little number. After a while, you know, he wasn't doing it. So she said, look, I'm just going to tell your wife about me, right? And started to threaten him. And he turned around and said to her, well, just give me some more time. Then he backed off. And he was like, I'm not going to get into this at all any longer. He started to become scared. And then he stopped being with her and everything. And then what did she do? She started to become very forceful, contacting him all the time, emailing him all the time, wanting to get with him, driving by his work, and he started to become more and more scared. So she faked suicide. She took enough just to not die, right? Pills just to not die, right? So she gets to the hospital, gets her stomach pumped and everything, calls him on the phone and says, I'm
And they'd be obsessed. It
right,
sounds exactly like
it sounds like she's obsessed, right? Lust. Lust is something that is, you want something so badly, it's not yours. So it's like obsession, right? So she gets her stomach pumped and she calls him up from the hospital and says, I'm in the hospital, can you come? And he says, no, you know, I gotta take care of some things at home, I gotta drive the kids to hockey practice, I gotta do this and do that. He doesn't come. He changes his phone number.
Good for him.
He doesn't start, he stops answering his emails, every single one. And she starts contacting him all the time, to the point where the wife contacts her and says, look, my husband told me about you. I love him, he loves me, we're working things out, stay away from him. He doesn't want anything to do with this affair any longer. The girl, till this day, still wants to contact him. She still drives by his work, and she was told that if she contacts him, the police will be called on her, and she will be charged with harassment. Okay? And even though she knows that, she still wants to,
She still does?
she still wants to contact him through email, but she still goes by his work, and she still does all this behavior where it doesn't make sense, but it's because, you know why? Lust. She's lusting for him. She wants something so badly that she cannot have, and it belongs to someone else, that
She should be like into the mental health ward. Like, what
so too.
happened?
right.
Maybe you should refer
Well,
her there.
it's
I'm
just
sorry.
it's lust, right? And
I thought my
it
little
gets
crush was crazy, but that's a little crazy.
right, no, when it becomes to a point of beyond normal, then you know it has something to do with lust. It's a deadly sin, because this can sabotage her. This could destroy her, but yet she's still willing to give into the lust. Not normal. Okay, and then we have gluttony. Now, the meaning of gluttony is derived from the Latin glutire, meaning to gulp down or swallow, means overindulgence, overconsumption of food, or wealth items to the extravagance or waste. Okay, this is one of my favorites because I understand the gluttony part when it comes to food. When I was pregnant with my first child, Melisha, right, I gained 100 pounds during my pregnancy. And it was all because I was eating way too much. This was the key. I was eating when I wasn't hungry. I was eating just because it was there. And then I was eating because I had nothing else to do at the moment. You know, watching television, pregnant, right? I'm eating for two was my comment, right, all the time. But you know what I learned over the years was, if I'm not hungry, don't eat. If I am doing nothing and I find myself eating, put the food down immediately. Be mindful of what I'm doing at that moment, right? And I also found that over the years, if I eat more than the size of my hand that's on a plate, I'm full, right? So the stomach muscle itself, which is right here, not the belly, but the stomach muscle itself is the size of our hand. If at any meal we eat more than what can fit in our hand, like a nice size like this, then we're overeating. Human beings, it's just the normal thing. If we eat more than what can fit in our hand, we are overeating. And once we start overeating, we stretch our stomach muscle itself, because it's like a piece of meat, a piece of flesh, and then it starts to stretch out. I knew a woman that was about 600 pounds, and she went for a gastro operation, and they cut off all the they perforated, like they cut off the stomach and they re-sewed it and made her stomach the size of how it's naturally supposed to be, right? So she could lose weight again. And she lost her weight and everything, and she's doing fine and she looks great and everything, right? But she cannot eat any more than what's in her hand, otherwise she will vomit. And she still does, because her mindset has not been fixed. This has been fixed, but now she still has to learn how to train her brain not to overeat when she's bored or some things of that nature. She's like 600 pounds. You know, her indication is she's eating too much all the time. So when I gained my 100 pounds during my pregnancy, I didn't realize during that time, and also the second time, that I was actually imposing the same obesity complex upon my children. Now check this out. When we gain weight, what we do is we double our fat cells. So we're not just packing fat in the cells themselves, we are actually doubling the cells. When we lose weight, we don't decrease the cells. We just lose the fat in the cells, but those cells remain. Then they are passed on through genetics. So our children's children can have also issues with obesity. My daughter and my son also have problems with gaining weight quickly, because I gained on so much weight during my pregnancy. I gain weight like this. If I dare eat after 8 o'clock at night, if I dare eat when I'm not hungry, if I dare eat more than this, and I have a glass of water and I'm feeling that full effect, and I just happen to eat a little ounce more, the next day I am 5 pounds heavier, no word of a lie. 5 pounds in one day, right? How in the world? That's because my fat cells are like, oh, thank you, right? They're holding on to that fat, and they're like, thank you, you know, you're proving us happy again and everything, right? And that's what happened. So my daughter, now she's slim, but all through her growing up years, she battled weight. My son, right now, he's a football player, so he thinks it's okay, and God forgive me, sorry Tyree, but he's getting bigger and bigger very easily, and he eats late at night, and I have to keep reminding him, Tyree, be mindful of what you're eating at night, right? He's not fat, and he's not like, you know, he's a tall, big dude, his shoulders are huge, he's a muscle guy, right? But he puts on weight like this easily. Right? And it's all because I tell my kids straight up too, I was a glutton when I was pregnant. So therefore, I increased the amount of fat cells that I have, and I put you guys at risk for obesity. So Yes.
There's no way to lessen that, those cells?
No way at all, only through genetics. So, which means that Nolisha now, right, she's lost her weight, so she doesn't have that much. If she gets married to a man that has a fast metabolism and never had weight problems or anything in his future, then most likely it can be a 50-50 thing. But if she has children with a man who has weight problems, which her boyfriend did have weight problems, but they both lost weight together, and his mother has weight problems, so and her mother had weight problems, my grandchildren, if they have children together, most likely will have weight problems. Same thing with Tyree. If Tyree gets with a girl that has a fast metabolism, never had weight problems, then 50-50 chances that child may not have weight problems. But then there's a 50-50 chance that that child could be obese. And that's exactly what gluttony is all about, and that's why it's a deadly sin, because it actually, then you are actually exposed to diseases that could happen, like heart disease and diabetes and all that stuff, high blood pressure and all that stuff starts to come in, right? I got it from my mother. My mother was not overweight when I was growing up. She was tall, and as a matter of fact, she was like my size now, right? But she was 200 pounds when she was younger, and she was like 19 years old. She was 200 pounds for most of her life at that time, at her childhood, and she overate, and she would often say, oh, I'm on a diet. My mom was always on a diet when I was younger, put it that way, right? Always. She didn't eat once, and then she would gain weight afterwards. Now she's kind of maintaining, but she is a little heavy on the belly side, right? But she is always complaining about it, right? So that's where I get it from. My dad, no weight problems at all, right? But then I have my sister, Darla, and she doesn't really have weight problems, but the rest of the sisters do. All of us sisters, we all do. We eat, we gain weight like this. Weight is a problem in my family, a big problem in my family. And in my family's, and I noticed that obesity is a huge problem in America and in Canada, right? So why? It's just because none of us eat within our hands kind of size. So as long as we all eat within our hand size, we're good. Gluttony as well. I know it's a little bit of food, right? Just a little bit. And I have a client who is like, well, Cerise, what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to become a vegetarian, and that way I can eat a whole bunch of food and never gain weight, right? Right there, that's a gluttony mindset, right? It's just like, I can just eat forever, right? But this is the saying that my great-grandmother used to always say, and probably because there was problems with weight in my family with the women, but my grandmother used to always say, we don't live to eat. We eat to live.